So there's a new service out there called Transparency Tube, and they must love that umbrella guy because they keep calling him right. What do you mean that's not what they mean by right? Politics? You gotta be kidding. Well, them anyway. So hey there. So today, you and I, we are returning to that wonderful world of progressive pigeonholing, where apparently if you don't kneel to the corporate overlords, you're gonna get labeled, and you're gonna get labeled, well, in ways you probably don't agree with. Now, you and I, we're going to spit a little bit of logic and perhaps a little bit of venom about those labels in just a second. Plus, we're going to talk about how the creator of this stuff, they've created labels that actually can do damage. They know that they can do damage, and yet they still attach them to people. But before we do, the person here, their mindset about labels at any other time, it would be different. And Geeky Sparkles, part of the Clownfish TV duo, does a great job of pointing that out. But right now, it's not about personal truths. Quote, so I'm confused. If people are to respect what others identify as and their pronouns, etc., which we try to do, actually, how come others can identify us as other than what we identify as, and that's okay? You can't say facts or truth because those are irrelevant for identity any other time because they've been deemed as personal truths, which is fine. So how can one label people based on data and facts and not based on what the person's personal truth is? Now, as far as that four-letter F word is concerned, facts, hear the air quotations around it, facts. And they do mean it, like other four-letter F words, by the way. But the way that they arrive at their facts, it's with predictive model. All of these things, too, they are inherently flawed, but don't ever tell them that. I know this because I've been involved with one of these predictive models before. I've had labels thrown on me, and some of those labels, they looked like this. Why did I get those labels, by the way? Because I talk about comic books. I talk about IDW, and apparently IDW, it was shorthand for one of their search parameters, intellectual dark web. So because they didn't know a subject, they just made gross generalizations. I got labels that are still out there from one of these things, and yeah, that's the same thing they're doing now. See, at the end of the day, that's my problem with a place like Transparency Tube. It's not just the label, because the label, I guess that's part of the game. It's the intent of the labeling. And make no mistake, this place, they intend to do harm with those labels, and they only intend to do harm to socially acceptable targets. I'll show you that too. Let's say mainstream news, for example. Are they a socially acceptable target? No. So let's see what labels they have as overlap. Partisan left, partisan right, social justice. Nothing that you can harm there. Partisan left, let's see what they overlap with. Are any of these labels that can do harm? Social justice, mainstream news. Socialist, late night talk show. No. Now, social justice has a small overlap with conspiracy, and conspiracy is a no-no on this platform. It can do harm, and they tell you that when they're talking about this, which I'll show you in just a second. But really, look at their overlap. Partisan left, socialist, mainstream news. Same thing that goes with a late night talk show. Partisan left and social justice. Now, when we look at partisan right, let's look at the labels, and you tell me how many of these labels can do harm. Conspiracy, anti-SJW. QAnon, religious community, white identitarian, libertarian. How many of those labels basically open you up for attack? I wonder indeed. Now, anti-SJW, same thing. Partisan right, religious community, white identitarian, MRA. How many of those labels are meant to do harm? Now, if we look up, I don't know, a channel like mine, for example, look at how we're labeled here. Right, anti-SJW. And you know what? I am very anti-SJW, by the way, because social justice, that's basically short form for crazies out there that want to buzzword their way out of fights, just like this crap does here. Now, interestingly enough, that same label is given to places like Clownfish TV. You can see exact same labels, and yeah, isn't that pretty telling? Now, what's crazy are places like, I don't know, Rekieta Law, he's a centrist, and he's anti-SJW. So Rekieta Law is a centrist, but Clownfish TV, they're right-wing. What a clown world. What a clown world indeed. And I say that loving both those folks. I mean, they're great channels. Check them out. Now, what's particularly insidious about this site, and will eventually get them sued, in my opinion, is the fact that they, number one, know that these labels can do damage, and number two, they know that some of them are improperly applied. This comes up in the announcement, and it comes up in the ensuing discussion hereafter. So I'm excited to announce Transparency Tube, the first comprehensive look at YouTube politics, because we're now a political channel. We track the views of more than 8,000 political channels every day, provide an interactive viz so you can see what's happening daily. They tell you too about their algorithm because it makes it sound more scientific. We've grown from 800 manually classified channels to 8,000 thanks to that model. Believe me, classifying this many channels is not humanly possible. Again, that's supposed to make it sound a little more scientific. They tell you too, they want to sell this model pretty much. Given the important YouTube is for modern politics and culture, we hope Transparency Tube will become a trusted source of information for anyone who wants to understand the galaxy of YouTube political content. They tell you too, we're open for interviews, guys, and then they tell you about the labels. Despite YouTube's effort to limit the reach of conspiracy content, it still accounts for a significant amount of traffic on the platform. You see who they tie that into, by the way. Quite a few labels. Labels like the one they applied to us. So, we have that overlap, but we're not wanted. Thanks there, by the way, Mark. They tell you too, like I said, that they're out there for the journalists and on. Yeah. Now, as far as labels that are inappropriately applied, look at this here. You have Weaponized Nerd Rage. Check them out, by the way. Almost 50,000 subscribers. They need to be there and beyond. But they have right, anti-SJW, and partisan right applied. Now, Weaponized Nerd Rage notes that I'm a bleeping libertarian, you mindless bleep. And the person that made all of those announcements that told you about that flawless algorithm and on, they tell you, well, I removed partisan right. But there's nothing libertarian in your content that I could see. So I removed one of those labels. This is flawed. But I manually decided what else is there. Yeah, that says plenty about your flawless system. Now, this exchange is really telling. Clownfish TV tagged in. Someone says, hey, you should put them under centrist. They're not right-wing. And one of the co-hosts of Clownfish TV, remember, Clownfish TV is two people, just like ThatUmbrellaGuy is one person. They say, I'm a registered libertarian, I'm not right-wing, and this side of yours, it is really going to screw somebody up one day. It's going to cost them gigs, sponsorship, cause them trouble, because other people, they will burn your freaking life down over this. They say, I reviewed this and will leave it as is. The classification is about the content of your channel, not you personally. What do you think these channels are? They are one or two people, but if it's all culture war content, if it's anti-SJW, we will balance and say that it's right-wing channel, unless you can point me to some libertarian content. Yep, respect people's identity indeed. I think that places like Transparency Tube, they make our points for us better than anything. But let me know what you think about this stuff. Maybe you disagree. And as always, you make this stuff possible. Thank you for that. I can't say that enough. You make this channel work. And I'm going to end by saying you want to help this channel out too. There are links in the description. Patreon, memberships, and of course the comic book. That thing out there that we can't get talked about because of labels like this, but it's okay. They don't keep this up. You make it work. So hey, appreciate you, and we'll see you soon.